Captain Lee Daeho pulled his diving suit tighter as the cold Pacific water pressed against him. 3 days had passed since the strange object fell from the sky, creating massive waves that reached the Korean coast. Every government on Earth had warned people to stay away, but Daeho could not ignore the weak distress signals his equipment picked up from the ocean floor. "Captain, are you sure about this?" asked his teammate, Petty Officer Kim Minitsu, his voice crackling through the underwater radio. "The radiation readings are still high." Daeho checked his depth gauge. 200 meters down, the ocean was dark and cold. "Someone is alive down there, Minitsu. We cannot just leave them." His small rescue team had been working for hours to reach the crashed vessel. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, smooth metallic surfaces that seemed to bend light around them, creating strange patterns in the water. The ship was huge, maybe twice the size of their largest submarine, but it was clearly dying. Lights flickered weakly along its hull, and strange gases bubbled up from several cracks. "There," pointed Lieutenant Park So-young through her helmet visor. "An opening." The team squeezed through a gap in the ship's side. Inside, the air was breathable but smelled of ozone and something sweet they could not identify. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, which were covered with symbols that hurt their eyes to look at directly. They found the survivors in what looked like a medical bay. 5 beings lay on crystalline beds, connected to machines that hummed with dying power. Daeho had seen many things in his 20 years of military service, but nothing had prepared him for this sight. The aliens were tall, much taller than humans, with long limbs and graceful features. Their skin was silver white and seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Most striking were their eyes, large and luminous, like looking at distant stars. 4 of them were already dead, their light faded. The last one stirred as the humans approached. Its eyes opened and focused on Daeho with surprising intelligence. Despite their differences, Daeho could see pain and sadness in those alien features. We came seeking help," the being spoke, its voice coming through a small device attached to its throat. The words were Korean, translated somehow by their technology. "Our world, destroyed. Our people, scattered. Who are you?" Daeho asked gently, kneeling beside the alien's bed. "We are Keth Mori," it replied, each word seeming to take great effort. Was Fleet Commander Steltich YSS. We have traveled far, running from those who hunt us." Kim Minitsu checked his instruments nervously. "Captain, the ship's power is failing. We need to get out soon." But Daeho found himself drawn to this dying being. There was something about the Keth Mori that reminded him of his grandfather, who had always helped strangers in need. "What happened to your people?" The alien's eyes grew dimmer. "We were peaceful. We explored, we learned, we helped others grow. But there are those in the galaxy who see kindness as weakness. They came with great fleets, burning our worlds, enslaving our children." "I am sorry," Daeho said, and meant it. The Keth Mori reached out with a thin, long-fingered hand. When Daeho took it, he felt a strange warmth, like gentle electricity flowing through his skin. "Your species shows mercy to strangers," the alien whispered, its voice growing weaker. "This is rare in the galaxy. Most would have left us to die, or taken our technology for themselves. But you came down here, risked your lives, just to help." "It is what anyone should do," Daeho replied simply. The alien's grip tightened slightly. "No, human Lee Daeho. It is what your people do. We have watched from space. You fight each other, yes, but when disaster strikes, when others suffer, you help. Even your enemies. Even strangers like us." The ship shuddered around them, and more lights went out. "We cannot repay this kindness with gifts of weapons or ships," the Keth Mori continued urgently. "Such things would only bring you harm. But we can give you something else. Something that will help your children, and their children, when the time comes." "What do you mean?" asked Park So-young. Instead of answering, the alien pressed something small and warm into Daeho's palm. It looked like a tiny crystal, pulsing with soft light. "We give you potential," the Keth Mori said. "The same gift we possessed, but were too gentle to use properly. Your species will learn faster, adapt quicker, see patterns others miss. It will sleep in your blood for generations, until the day you truly need it." The crystal dissolved into Daeho's skin, causing a brief tingling sensation. "The debt will be remembered," the alien whispered, its eyes finally losing their light. "When the galaxy threatens the innocent, when the strong prey upon the weak, humanity will remember this day. And all who bring suffering will learn to fear you." The Keth Mori died peacefully, a slight smile on its alien features. The rescue team barely escaped as the ship's hull finally gave way to the ocean's pressure. Later, government officials questioned them extensively, took their equipment, and classified everything about the incident. The world's leaders buried the report, deciding it was better left forgotten. But across the vast galaxy, in the halls of power on 1,000 worlds, the ancient species who ruled through fear and violence continued their games. None of them noticed the small blue planet where something new had just begun to grow in humanity's DNA. The debt would indeed be remembered. Commander Park Minute-Ho adjusted his uniform as he watched the massive trade station through the bridge windows. Kepler 442 was one of the biggest commercial hubs in this part of the galaxy, with ships from dozens of different species coming and going every hour. The station looked like a giant metal flower, with arms stretching out in all directions to accommodate different types of vessels. "Sir, docking permission granted for Bay 7, announced Lieutenant Kim So-young from her position at the communications console. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, but Minute-Ho noticed how her eyes constantly scanned the readouts from their hidden sensors. The merchant ship New Seoul looked ordinary from the outside. It had the typical boxy design of a cargo hauler, with large storage bays and basic defensive shields. Other species saw it as just another human trade vessel, nothing special or threatening. They had no idea that every surface was packed with the most advanced scanning equipment humanity had ever built. "Begin standard cargo unload," Minute-Ho ordered, but his real attention was on the tactical display hidden in his captain's chair. The screen showed detailed maps of the station's layout, weapon positions, shield generators, and power systems. Information that would be very useful someday. As they docked, Minute-Ho watched alien workers moving around the station. Most were from species that served the three great powers of this region. The hegemony controlled dozens of star systems through fear and brutal force. The Syndicate ran their territory like a criminal organization, taking whatever they wanted from weaker worlds. The Federation claimed to be civilized, but they looked down on everyone else and only helped those who could pay. All three powers had been expanding for thousands of years, growing fat and lazy on the suffering of smaller species. They barely noticed when humanity had started spreading to the stars 300 years ago. Just another young race trying to find their place in the galaxy. "The medical supplies are loaded, Commander," reported Ensign Lee Jun-ho from the cargo bay. "The Veilthans are very grateful. They say these medicines will save many lives on their homeworld." Minute-Ho smiled genuinely. Humanity's reputation for quality medical supplies was well earned. But while other species focused on weapons and territory, humans had quietly become the galaxy's doctors, teachers, and helpers. It was a role that opened many doors and gained them access to places others could never reach. On his personal communicator, encrypted messages were arriving from human agents across the galaxy. Each message looked like simple business reports or family letters, but they contained crucial intelligence. From the Andromeda sector, diplomat Choi Han-wol reported on his latest treaty negotiations with the Zephyrian Empire. To outside observers, he was just a skilled negotiator helping establish new trade agreements. But his real job was studying how different alien species thought, what they feared, what motivated them. Every conversation taught him something new about galactic politics and power structures. Colonial Administrator Yoon Ji-woo sent updates from the frontier world of New Busan. Her official job was managing the human settlement there, making sure crops grew and buildings got built. But she was also documenting the psychology of every alien species that visited their world, learning their strengths and weaknesses, their military capabilities, their social structures. Teacher Lim Dong-minute worked in refugee camps on 3 different worlds, helping displaced families learn new skills and find homes. The aliens saw him as a kind human who cared about the suffering of others. What they did not know was that he was also recording the stories of every oppressed species, learning about injustices committed by the great powers, building a detailed map of who deserved protection and who deserved punishment. "Sir, we have clearance to depart," Kim So-young announced. As the New Seoul undocked from the station, Minute-Ho reflected on how much things had changed since his grandfather's time. 3 centuries ago, humans had been trapped on one small world, barely able to reach their own moon. Now they had colonies on hundreds of worlds and trade relationships with thousands of species. The secret was in their blood, though few humans understood exactly why they learned so fast or adapted so quickly to new situations. Most just accepted that humanity was naturally good at exploring and making friends with aliens. They did not know about the gift left by the dying Keth Mori, sleeping in their genetic code, making every human child a little bit smarter and more capable than their parents. But Minute-Ho knew. All the senior commanders knew. They had been briefed about humanity's true potential and their real mission among the stars. While the galaxy's great powers played their ancient games of conquest and control, humanity was quietly preparing for something much bigger. Through the ship's communications array, similar merchant vessels across known space were sending their reports. Freighter Captain Yo Sang-minute had mapped the defensive systems around the hegemony's main military base. Engineer Nam Hai-jin had infiltrated the syndicate's weapon manufacturing facilities. Scientist Dr. Shin Woo-sung had spent 5 years studying the Federation's advanced technology. Piece by piece, step by step, humanity was learning everything there was to know about their future enemies. And the great powers remained completely unaware, seeing humans as useful but harmless traders and diplomats. Minute-Ho looked out at the stars and wondered how much longer it would take. The Keth Mori had said the debt would be remembered when the time was right. Somewhere out there, the scattered survivors of that gentle species were still suffering, still waiting for rescue. Soon, Minute-Ho thought. Very soon, the galaxy would discover what humans were really capable of when someone they cared about was in danger. Dr. Song Yujin wiped the sweat from her forehead as she worked in the underground chamber. The ruins of Sanctuary 7 had been calling to human archaeologists for months, but this was the first time anyone had managed to break through the sealed doors. What they found inside was beyond anything she had imagined. The chamber was filled with crystalline structures that still glowed with soft blue light after thousands of years. Strange symbols covered every surface, and in the center stood a massive archive device that hummed with ancient power. Her team had been working for 3 days to activate the translation systems, and finally, the alien texts were becoming readable. "Professor, you need to see this," called her assistant, researcher Nam Tai-young, from across the chamber. His voice carried a note of excitement mixed with fear. "These aren't just historical records. These are personal messages." Yujin hurried over to where Tai-young was standing in front of a holographic display. The text flowing across the screen was in perfect Korean, translated by the Keth Mori technology that somehow understood their language better than they understood it themselves. The first message made her heart skip a beat. "To the humans of Earth, if you are reading this, then our gift has finally awakened in your species. We pray you will use it more wisely than we did." "What gift?" Tai-young asked, but Yujin was already reading further. The archive told an incredible story. 300 years ago, when the Keth Mori had crashed in Earth's ocean, they had not just given humanity a simple blessing. They had unlocked genetic potential that had been sleeping in human DNA for millions of years, abilities that evolution had started but never finished. Enhanced pattern recognition, Yujin read aloud, her hands shaking. The ability to see connections that others miss, to learn from limited information, to adapt quickly to new situations. Accelerated learning speed that doubles with each generation. Perfect information retention that allows knowledge to be passed down through genetic memory. The archive showed detailed scientific data about human development since first contact. Birth rates had increased. Children were learning to speak earlier, solving problems faster, showing creative abilities that amazed their teachers. Human technology had advanced at an impossible rate, allowing them to reach the stars in just 3 centuries when most species took thousands of years. But the most shocking revelation was still to come. The Keth Mori had these same abilities, Yujin whispered as she read. They were the most advanced species in the galaxy, capable of learning and adapting beyond anything seen before. But they were too peaceful to use their gifts for war. The archive painted a horrifying picture of what had happened to the Keth Mori. Their peaceful nature had made them perfect targets for aggressive species. The hegemony had attacked first, enslaving entire worlds. The Syndicate had captured their scientists and forced them to create weapons. The Federation had treated them like interesting animals to be studied. Within 50 years of first contact with the galactic powers, the Keth Mori civilization had been destroyed. Their homeworlds had been turned into mining colonies. Their children had been sold as slaves or kept as experimental subjects. The few adult survivors had been scattered across the galaxy, hidden away in laboratories and private collections. "There are still Keth Mori alive," Tai-young said, reading over her shoulder. "The archive has been tracking them for centuries. Thousands of them, held captive across dozens of worlds." Yujin felt a cold anger growing in her chest. She thought of her own children back on Earth, free to play and learn and grow. Then she imagined them trapped in cages, forced to work in mines or serve as test subjects for alien scientists. The idea made her physically sick. But there was more. The archive contained detailed records of every crime committed by the galaxy's great powers. Entire species wiped out for their resources. Peaceful worlds conquered just to expand territory. Children stolen from their families to be raised as soldiers. The Keth Mori knew this would happen, Yujin realized. They gave us their abilities because they hoped we would be different. Strong enough to fight back, but still caring enough to protect the innocent. The final message in the archive was addressed directly to her. Dr. Song Yujin, we have been watching your species for 300 years. Your people have shown kindness to strangers, mercy to enemies, and courage in the face of danger. The time has come for the debt to be repaid. Use our gift well, and free those who cannot free themselves. Yujin's hands were no longer trembling. The shock had been replaced by cold determination. She activated her emergency communicator and sent coded messages to every human world, every hidden base, every secret facility that humanity had built during their centuries of exploration. This is Dr. Song Yujin, Priority Alpha Authorization. She broadcast on frequencies that only senior human officials could access. All units are to prepare for Operation Awakening. The truth about our abilities has been revealed. The Keth Mori are alive and need our help. She paused, looking around the ancient chamber where so much knowledge had been preserved for this moment. The debt collection begins now. Every human ship, every colony, every diplomatic mission is hereby activated for military operations. We are no longer merchants and explorers. We are the instrument of justice the galaxy has been waiting for. As her message spread across human space, carried by the same trading networks that had seemed so innocent just hours before, Yujin began downloading the complete archive. Every location where Keth Mori were held prisoner. Every weakness in the enemy's defenses. Every crime that demanded punishment. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake 300 years ago when they ignored humanity's first contact with aliens. They were about to discover just how costly that mistake would be. Admiral Huang Jaesung stood in the command center of the massive space station hidden in the asteroid field of the Outer Rim. For 40 years, he had been preparing for this day, building fleets and training soldiers while the galaxy thought humans were just peaceful traders. His gray hair and weathered face showed the weight of keeping such enormous secrets, but his eyes burned with purpose. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. The command center was built deep inside a hollowed-out asteroid, invisible to enemy sensors but connected to every human world through quantum communication networks. "Sir, final reports coming in from all sectors," announced Communications Officer Bae Subin, her young face tense with excitement and fear. Fleet Admiral Kim reports the Pacific Fleet is ready. Fleet Admiral Park says the Atlantic Fleet has reached their positions. The Indian Ocean Fleet is standing by. Huang nodded, but kept his expression calm. He had learned long ago that a commander's emotions spread quickly through his crew. If he showed fear, they would be afraid. If he showed confidence, they would fight harder. The truth was, even he was amazed at what humanity had built in secret. For 3 centuries, while alien species saw humans as harmless merchants and diplomats, they had been constructing the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Every trade route had been scouted as a potential attack vector. Every colony had been built with hidden weapon factories. Every diplomatic mission had gathered intelligence. "Open channel to all human vessels," Huang ordered. Across thousands of star systems, crews that had spent years pretending to be simple cargo haulers and passenger transports received the signal they had been waiting for. Captain Li Yura, commanding what appeared to be a medical supply ship near Arcturus, smiled as her bridge crew began activating systems that had been hidden for decades. The transformation was breathtaking. Hull panels slid away to reveal weapon ports that could punch through any known armor. Engines that had seemed ordinary suddenly blazed with energy that bent the laws of physics. Defensive shields snapped into existence around ships that had previously looked defenseless. In the Arcturus system, the hegemony forces guarding the lithium mining operation had no idea what was about to hit them. The mines were carved into 3 moons, where thousands of Keth Mori slaves worked in terrible conditions, digging up materials for alien weapons and machines. "Target the prison ships first," Yura ordered her weapons officer, Lieutenant Cho Minute-jun. "We want those slaves alive and free." The Hegemony patrol fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and 40 smaller ships, more than enough to crush any normal threat. Their commanders were lazy and overconfident, having faced no real challenges in this system for decades. They never saw the human ships coming. Yura's squadron dropped out of hyperspace directly above the mining moons, moving faster than anything the Hegemony had on record for human vessels. Their first volley of weapons fire destroyed half the enemy fleet before the aliens even realized they were under attack. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," came the panic transmission from the Hegemony commander. "This is a restricted system under Imperial protection." Instead of answering, Ura's ships began precise surgical strikes on the mining facilities' guard towers and weapon emplacements, careful not to harm the slave quarters. Her crews had studied the layout of these mines for years, knew exactly where every Keth Mori was being held. Meanwhile, similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. In the Vega system, Captain Jung Hoonsuk's fleet was liberating Keth Mori held in research laboratories. Near the galactic core, Commander Osujin was freeing slaves from the Syndicate's manufacturing worlds. On the Federation's border worlds, dozens of merchant vessels were simultaneously revealing themselves as military ships. Back at the command center, Admiral Huang watched the tactical displays as green lights appeared across the star maps. Each light represented a successful liberation operation, another group of Keth Mori freed from centuries of captivity. "Sir, the hegemony capital is demanding to speak with you," reported Bae Subin. "They are threatening to declare war on humanity." Huang laughed, a sound without humor. "Put them through on all frequencies. Let every species in the galaxy hear this." The main screen lit up with the image of High Commander Vexthal, the reptilian leader of the hegemony's military forces. His yellow eyes were filled with rage and confusion. "What is the meaning of this attack?" Vexthal hissed. "Your species will pay dearly for this aggression." "This is Admiral Huang Jae-sung of the Human Star Fleet," Huang replied calmly, his voice being broadcast to every major power in the galaxy. "By the ancient laws of debt and honor, we claim protection of all Keth Mori wherever they may be found. 300 years ago, your people and your allies destroyed their civilization and enslaved their survivors. Today, that debt comes due." Vexthal's expression changed from anger to shock as he realized the scope of what was happening. Reports were flooding in from across hegemony space, human fleets appearing everywhere at once, their technology far more advanced than anyone had suspected. "You cannot do this," the alien commander sputtered. "The Keth Mori are property. Legally acquired specimens. Any who stand in our way will be removed," Huang continued, his voice growing harder. "You have 1 hour to release all Keth Mori in your territory and surrender your war criminals for trial. After that, we will take them by force." The transmission ended, leaving stunned silence across the galaxy's communication networks. For the first time in thousands of years, someone had openly challenged the great powers and had the strength to back up their words. In star systems across known space, the galaxy's rulers were discovering that the harmless human traders they had dismissed for centuries were actually the most dangerous military force ever assembled. And they were just getting started. General Oh Sung-ho watched the massive holographic display that filled the entire command center. Above the hegemony's capital world of Tyraxis Prime, the final battle of the war was reaching its climax. Thousands of ships moved through space like a deadly dance, but this fight was nothing like the wars the galaxy had seen before. "Sir, enemy dreadnought Bone Crusher is trying a flanking maneuver," reported Tactical Officer Shin Minute-jung from her station. Her fingers flew over the controls as data streamed in from hundreds of human ships. "It's the same tactic they used against the Velian Empire 50 years ago." "Countermeasures ready?" Oh asked calmly. "Already adapted and deployed, sir. Their attack pattern has been turned against them. The Bone Crusher will be destroyed in 4 to 7 seconds. This was humanity's greatest gift from the ancient Keth Mori, something that even the humans themselves had only recently understood. It was not just that they learned faster than other species, but that they could adapt instantly to any situation. Every enemy weapon, every battle tactic, every strategy was absorbed and improved upon within minutes of first encounter. The hegemony had ruled through fear for over 3,000 years. Their massive dreadnoughts had crushed entire civilizations, their weapons had burned countless worlds. But now, as O watched, the mighty Bone Crusher exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The human fleet had not just blocked its attack, but had somehow turned the dreadnought's own weapons against itself. "Enemy fleet composition is breaking down," reported another officer. "They're trying to retreat, but our ships are predicting their escape routes and cutting them off." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. The 3 great powers that had terrorized smaller species for millennia were collapsing within weeks. The ruthless Syndicate had surrendered after their entire leadership was captured in a single night. The arrogant Federation had begged for peace when human fleets appeared above their homeworld without any warning. But humanity was not interested in conquest. They had come for justice. "Sir, message from Captain Ko In-ho aboard the Liberation," announced Communications Officer Yang Unsu. "The last Keth Mori prison facility on Tyraxis Prime has been secured. All slaves are free and receiving medical treatment." O nodded, but his attention was focused on a smaller screen showing feeds from across the galaxy. Not all species had supported the great powers. Some had shown kindness to refugees, some had fought against slavery, some had tried to protect the innocent despite the danger to themselves. The Dalthek were one such species. They were small, furry creatures who had secretly sheltered Kethmori refugees for centuries, hiding them from bounty hunters and slave traders. Now, human fleets surrounded their homeworld, but not as conquerors. The ships formed a protective barrier, keeping away the remnants of the syndicate forces that wanted revenge. On their main screen, O watched as human medical ships approached the world of the Yanini, a species that had openly opposed slavery and had tried to help oppressed peoples throughout their sector. The ships were loaded with advanced healing technology, gifts from humanity to those who had shown courage when it mattered most. "Sir, all primary objectives have been completed," reported Shin Minute-jung. "The hegemony's military command has been destroyed. Their war criminals are in custody. The last of their weapon factories have been shut down." Through the command center speakers came the voice of Captain Ko In-ho, broadcasting on all frequencies to every corner of known space. His words were being translated into thousands of alien languages, reaching every world, every space station, every ship in the galaxy. "Citizens of the galaxy, this is Captain Ko In-ho of the Human Liberation Fleet. Today marks the end of 3,000 years of tyranny. The hegemony, the syndicate, and the Federation are no more. Their leaders will face trial for their crimes against innocent species." O could imagine the shock and confusion on millions of worlds as people tried to understand what had just happened. For most species, the three great powers had seemed eternal and invincible. The Kethmori people, who were nearly destroyed by these tyrants, are now free, Ko continued. Those who showed them kindness during their darkest hours will be rewarded. Those who harmed them have already paid the price. On screens throughout the command center, O watched as Kethmori emerged from hidden sanctuaries across the galaxy. Many had been slaves for so long they had forgotten what freedom looked like. Others had been hiding in caves and ruins, afraid to show themselves for centuries. Their tall, graceful forms and starlight eyes were filled with tears of joy and disbelief. In the mining tunnels of the Arcturus moons, Kethmori children saw sunlight for the first time in their lives. On research stations throughout Syndicate space, Kethmori scientists were finally able to use their knowledge to help others instead of creating weapons. On Federation worlds, Kethmori who had been kept as curiosities and test subjects were learning what it meant to make their own choices. "The debt our species owed to the Kethmori has been repaid in full," Ko announced. "But let this be a warning to any who would prey upon the innocent, enslave the weak, or bring suffering to those who cannot defend themselves." The captain's voice grew harder, carrying the promise of swift justice. "Humanity keeps its promises. We remember every kindness shown to us, and we never forget a crime against those we protect. To the species who choose peace and justice, you have our friendship and our aid. To those who would return to the old ways of conquest and cruelty." Ko paused, and across the galaxy, millions of beings held their breath. "Learn to fear the sound of our approach. The galaxy has new guardians now, and we will not allow the darkness to return." As the transmission ended, O looked around the command center at his exhausted but victorious crew. 300 years of preparation had led to this moment. The gentle Kethmori had given humanity a gift, and now that gift had been used to transform the entire galaxy. The age of tyrants was over. The age of justice had begun.